Hey everybody, I've got some bad news to share. You see, Daryl has decided that he's not going to pay rent anymore for staying in my shed unless I meet his demands. And the only demand he really had was that I allow him to make a video on the channel. So let's get it over with, and don't listen to anything he says. Am I supposed to look at the camera or pretend it's not there? Alright, listen here. When I was a wee boy, my grandpappy took me with him to the hardware store where he needed to pick up some lag bolts and a carton of Marlboro Reds. He told me that if I promised to spend the rest of that afternoon picking rocks from his yard, he would allow me to pick out one piece of candy at the hardware store. I was overwhelmed and could not decide which piece of candy to choose, and right when my young hand was reaching towards that Jolly Rancher, he slapped it with the back of his hand, and he said to me, "Too slow. If life opens a window for you, you jump out that son of a bitch. You do not stop and wait and think which floor you're on." Now I hope you learned something from that there story. Ain't no room for pussyfooting around when it comes to painting miniatures. Today, we paint hard. Paint fast. No mercy. There is no fear in this dojo. Alright, first test. What are we going to paint today? Little mini circle cities, little ghost girl with a wood chopping axe, Uncle Carl wearing a bed sheet, face huggers, little shrunken head, angry man with a cape, chair with big teeth. Wrong answer. You should have known this one. We're going to chop off Uncle Carl's right arm and we're going to attach it to angry man with cape to give him a badass sword. We're going to prime this miniature and we are going to spray it white from above. You see, priming is an awful lot like music. If black primer is Pantera and white primer is Yanni, you have to understand that whichever paint you put over top of that sound is either going to be heard or not heard based on which music that you are listening to in the primer situation. Is it just me, or does this guy kind of look like Ganon from Legend of Zelda? That, or is Sensei Kreese went to a Renaissance festival? John says that this miniature is supposed to be something known as Count Strahd from Dungeons and Dragons, and I apologize because I just threw up in my mouth a little bit for having to say that sentence. Now, I just assumed that all vampires had pale, pearly white skin, just like porcelain dolls, but apparently, after a thorough Google search on the internets, I found that they often start as more a grayish purple, so that is where we are going to begin. Hey, what's the deal with these Grey Poupon eating SOBs looking down their noses at those of us that use washes in miniature painting? Look, painting fast, painting hard means we cut all corners. There is no cheating. Yes, we are savages, but that does not mean that we are stupid. After we complete the washing of our model's skin, we are going to go back and work that skin up to that pearly white we so longingly desire. We will spend more time on this skin because it is the most important aspect of a vampire. But do not worry, we are going to phone it in later. I think we can all agree that the most badass people to have ever lived on this planet have worn black. Darth Vader, the Terminator, Johnny Cash, Keanu Reeves in such movies as The Matrix, John Wick, Bill and Ted. Well, he wore black in there, didn't he? I could go on all day, and that is why our vampire shall wear black today. But painting black does not have to be as tricky as it is to convince yourself that it is morally justifiable to shop at Hobby Lobby. No, what we're going to do is we are going to take some pure white paint and just put that on the spots of the armor that we want to have the highlights at. That way when we come back in with our thinned black paint or contrast paint, those highlights will still show underneath the translucent layer of black that we have already applied. Pop quiz, hotshot. What's the best Jean-Claude Van Damme movie? Wrong answer. All of them. It appears that I have underestimated the strength of this contrast black paint, and I can't really see the highlights that I put on underneath. But I'm not about to piss on my foot just because I stepped on a jellyfish. I'm going to take a little bit of light gray paint and do a little edge highlighting and show where that light would catch that shiny black armor. Well, I guess we have a sponsor for this week's video, and I'm told to read this here sheet of paper. Broken Anvil Monthly is a Patreon bringing an array of epically offbeat 32mm tabletop miniatures to patrons each month. All expertly pre-supported for click and print accessibility and designed with painters of all skill levels in mind. Hey, wait a second. You can print these things? On a machine? Is that what that thing is over there? Hey, since I'm doing your job today, why don't you go over there and print me a case of Coors? Things are getting spooky scary this October as Broken Anvil Miniatures introduces you to Panic at the Moorfrost Manor Miniatures Collection. For only $9, patrons of Broken Anvil Monthly will receive over 50 printable miniatures, providing plenty of ghoulish horrors to terrify and delight players in any RPG campaign. $9 for 50 miniatures? Hey, didn't that Space Marine you painted in the last video cost more than that? And that schlub looked like the stuntmen that get their asses kicked in the Chuck Norris movie. Well, these Broken Anvil folks seem a-okay in my book. The miniature I painted today is from their collection. So why don't you go out there and give me your $9, and while you're at it, why don't you print me a bottle of Jack Daniels and a Smith & Wesson J-frame. Much obliged. Alright, painting metals. This ain't rocket surgery. Only thing you need to keep in mind is that you want to make sure you're not using that weak-ass metal paint that most companies produce. And if you want to see all the non-weak hobby supplies that I use, check the links below. If you decide to purchase any of those, you support me at no cost to you. But I cannot promise that I won't spend that money on scratch-off tickets and bottle rockets. Speaking of metals, did I ever tell you the time when I rescued a baby raccoon and made him a custom set of plate mail out of aluminum foil? We used to go down to the Walmart and go eat some sardines straight from the can in the middle of the aisle. Man, Trash Panda Terry and I had some wild times. Anyway, we're going to wash the rest of this metal as well. It's way too shiny all over the place. We want to dull it down some. Metal really is only shiny where the light really hits it. Like when Terry would be waddling down the alleyway when he was out dumpster diving. Only time you could really see the plate mail was underneath the street lights, and even then it was mostly just the shoulder spikes and the tail flail that you could see. Alright, I'm just going to say it. The government and the media have been feeding us this too thin coats bullshit for far too long. You don't need all them little baby coats to layer it up to make your miniature look good. Simple as this. You take your thick, unthinned paint. You put the dark color in the shadowy parts. You put your bright color in the other parts. Then you quickly wipe off your brush on your buddy's favorite t-shirt, and then you swish those colors together where they meet, and you got one coat wonder. Listen, I'm here to paint figs and smoke cigs, and I got 15 nicotine patches on right now because I'm not allowed to smoke in the house. So you're going to take out your big boy brush for this. No tiny ass brush allowed for this work. And don't you be overthinking this part either. That paint is drying the second it leaves your brush. You need to act, and act fast, or ain't none of us getting to the chopper and getting out of this jungle alive. Perfect painting is your enemy. Ain't no such thing. It is a mirage. Don't be acting like them little children who are too scared to get out of their own comfort bubble and feel something real. Listen, you ain't gonna break this damn Mini, son. You screw up, you put more paint on. Them colors don't go exactly where you want them to, you put more paint on. You want to push up them highlights even more, you put more paint on. You don't need to watch 100 different videos and how to paint. You just watch this one 100 times. You ever wonder how they get the peanut butter inside these little pretzels? Yeah, I don't know either. Sure are good though. Say I was watching a video the other day by Scott, the Miniature Monocle, or whatever his name is, and he was talking about recess shading and how it makes your miniatures look so much better. So I thought I would try it myself. His looked like utter crap, so I figured my first try couldn't possibly be any worse. Basically, we're just taking black ink because it's real thin and covers real well, and we're outlining everything we already painted. There you go, Scott. I just explained your 15-minute video in one sentence. I would describe my preferred basing style as truck stop bathroom. No real reason other than I like the look and the smell. Last thing we're going to do here is take this giant Texas-sized belt buckle in our vampire and make that gem in the middle look nice and glowy. You'll see that I actually use that white paint underneath for the areas I want brighter, just like I did with the armor. And if any of you dingleberries go down in that comment section and complain about not having an airbrush, so help me baby Jesus. Well, hot damn, I gotta say this was pretty fun and pretty easy. I was expecting making a YouTube video was going to be way harder based on how much work John says he puts into making one of his videos, but just reminds me of how weak he really is. No wonder he doesn't ever want to practice karate with me in the garage. Oh, I'm damn sure that you enjoyed this video, and since you did, why don't you make sure that you are subscribed and you like down below as well. Oh, and if you want to support myself and maybe John in making more of these videos, the main way that you can do that is to check out the Patreon link below. I sure know that my portion will go towards building new bunk beds out in the shed. You know, I don't care what John says. I like you. You're good people. Remember, paint hard, paint fast, no mercy. Looking there, down there. A great attention. Burns a little bit. Longingly desire. Got a hair in my whiskey. Anyway,